Hey guys, welcome to the Titanium Vault. I'm your host, RJ Bates III, and today I'm sitting down with Dean Rogers. What's up, man?
What's up, brother? How you doing?
Pretty good. Today is a special day because you're the first ever former NFL player I've had on the podcast. I've
Let's
had other
go.
professional athletes, I've had NHL, I've had Major League Baseball, but first former NFL player. So, for the people that don't know who you are, man, give us a brief rundown of what it is that you do in real estate investing and how you got there.
Yeah, so the super high level elevator pitch kind of highlight reel is I started my career in the NFL. I mean, I spent my whole life working to get to that point, was living the dream. I'll share the story for later, but when I realized that that was not the best for my life, I'll just say that, I decided to just hang up the cleats and move on and jumped right into the corporate world. And then I came to the realization that was not going to get me back to the dream life that the NFL was promising. So I thank God I found real estate very quickly and found a podcast and been investing for 10 years ever since that day.
Love it,
And
man.
been investing in Central California. I've done right around 600 deals. I'm just a few shy right now. I got a rental portfolio of almost $10 million, and now I'm at the point where I'm coaching students. I'm trying to build community, impact others, and I'm all about abundance mindset. And we're stronger together. We can do more together. So
Love that. So I'm a big football guy. So I'm going to ask you some questions here about you talked about you worked your whole life to
yeah,
get to the NFL, and that starts in junior high, in high school. That was your path, right? One of the questions I have for you, because you played fullback, correct?
yeah, that wasn't my original position, but that's why I stopped playing because I got moved to fullback.
Gotcha. So what was your original position?
So you hit the nail on the head. I started back in junior high, and when I started in junior high, I'm more or less a skills guy. I'm not the like super speed runner,
Right.
but I'm just a utility guy. I get it done, get the ball in my hands. I want to score. So I started out in junior high as a receiver. Was kind of back and forth between receiver and quarterback, and then let's see, eighth grade, I think I played running back. And then that led me to say, ooh, I like the ball in my hands like that. So then high school, freshman year, I played running back, scored a bunch of touchdowns. Sophomore year, went to varsity, was on a really good team and kind of filled in for someone who went down and got injured as a tight end. And then I went to the head coach. I was like, dude, I really like the ball in my hands. I feel like I can help this team. Junior year, right back at running back. Senior year, running back, broke a bunch of records, lots of touchdowns, started getting recruited. But I was a big, tall, white running back that wasn't that fast
Right.
and was good at running people over and scoring touchdowns. So I kind of was under recruited. I was kind of an underdog. And so colleges were kind of trying to figure out where the heck to put me. I was kind of too tall for running back and not fast enough. And I was just like a couple inches taller and no question, like tight end. But I was getting looked at tight end. And that's what I went. I went to go play college at tight end. And I loved it, dude. Fell in love with the position, pride of blocking. And I get to go out, catch the ball, and score touchdowns. So
Love it.
that was my main position, tight end.
Love it. So I played high school football. I went to a small private school, so we got to play both ways. So tight end, middle linebacker, same thing. I'm 3 inches shorter than you because I looked you up. So it's like I wasn't big enough to make it to college. Same thing. I got under recruited, and it was like everywhere that I was going to be going to wasn't a school that I wanted to go to. So I decided just to hang it up.
Mm-hmm.
You pursued your path there. You made it. You played tight end, but you ended up making it to the NFL. You didn't play tight end in the NFL, right?
Right. Yeah. So I was getting looked at by about 13 teams, and I was talking to 13 teams, Some were looking at me at tight end. Some were looking at me at fullback, kind of like that H-back utility kind of guy. And, it just played out to where the Chargers were the ones that made the call and said, let's rock and roll. And Norv Turner moved me from tight end to fullback. And for me, if you get that call, you don't say, nah, I'm going to wait for the tight end call.
Right.
You're like, dude, anybody called me again, especially me being like the underdog. I wasn't first round draft pick. I didn't even go to the combine. I had to do one of the regional combines in Orange County and, show out in front of scouts there. But, got the call, was like, hell yeah, I'm taking this opportunity. Went, showed up. And dude, right out the gate, it was the most surreal thing. Cause as you can imagine, overnight, there's still some disbelief. Up to this point, there's still disbelief. Am I really going to get the call? Even though I'm talking to 13 teams,
right?
Some teams are telling me, hey, we're going to take you at this round, right? Stay by your phone. There's still disbelief because of everything leading up to that point. And when I got the call and I showed up, instantly it was like I was in a movie. You get picked up in the black Escalade. You get rolled into the facility. You get walked up the stairs to the second level to the general manager's office. They have everything in the room clear. They just have a contract on the table. And you're like, oh, shit, dude.
I love it.
This is crazy. As I'm walking up the stairs, up walks like a movie to the top of the stairs, Dean Spanos. Hey, what's up, Dean? You got a great name. I'm like, yeah, you too, man. I'm just like, this is crazy. So, yeah, man, it was just like a fairy tale. And then they start carting you around and introducing you to the players. Hey, what's up? This is Phillip Rivers. Hey, what's up? This is Antonio Gates. Hey, what's up?
Right.
This is Vincent Jackson. And all of a sudden, like you're in the club. And you instantly got status. You instantly have fame. You instantly are one of the guys. You're on the inside. And it was just insanely surreal. It was crazy.
That's awesome. So my son, big travel hockey player. He's going to be 11 in October, and his goal is to make it to the NHL. And we're blessed here in Dallas Fort Worth where we have a huge hockey community. And one of his coaches that he skates a weekly private with played in the NHL. And a lot of former Dallas Stars players are big in the youth hockey community. And so I was talking to a couple of former NHL players about this, and I said, listen, for all of us, middle-aged guys that never made it in professional sports, what we really want to know about is what was the life like? What happens behind? We know what happens during the games, right? We have enough access nowadays where we see that. It's about like, what is it like? Like what you're talking about, that surreal moment of getting picked up in the Escalade and walking up the stairs and you're in the club. And they were talking about the same thing. I'm like, I want to know what happens on the night where you play back-to-back games. Like you're finishing at 10 p.m. How are you getting from Dallas to Chicago the next day? And they would walk me through. They're like, oh, dude, it's crazy. You walk in, there's 40 pizzas lined up for you to eat. You shower, you put on your suit, you get on the plane, and then there's steak dinners and beers. And it's just, we're all playing poker, and it's the good old boys club. And then we land at 2:00 in the morning. We go get our hotel. And I was like, that's the stuff that people don't know. It's like, that's what we want to know. So that's really cool. So moving on from the NFL stuff, and let's get to the real estate. I'm curious, man, because you were a football player. Essentially, you had a coach and you were told what to do your whole life. You went to corporate. You would think that would kind of fit what you were used to, like being told what to do.
Yep.
It's rare for me to hear like a professional athlete who kind of got told and coached what to do their whole life to say, I don't want that. I want to go be an entrepreneur. I want to do this on my own. Was that kind of always your personality, or was that shocking to you as well?
That's a really good question. It was extremely shocking to me that I went that route because the fact that A, I needed and loved that structure.
Right.
And B, I grew up with entrepreneur parents. I saw the good and the bad. We had the trips to Europe, the trips to Hawaii. the nice house, the nice neighborhood, always having the essentials. My parents were, come from humble beginnings and always lived humbly. We had nice things, but we didn't have too many nice things. We weren't like, now there's going to be people, including my wife, that say, shut up, you were privileged.
Right.
But they didn't overdo it. We weren't like covered in toys and, eating candy for breakfast. Like, we come from, doing things the right way. But anyways, I saw the good things. And I also saw the, hey, I don't know if we're going to make payroll this week conversations. And me being a kid at the table, like, what the heck? We don't have enough money. This is crazy. This is scary.
Right.
And that happens with being an entrepreneur, with good times, bad times. The economy changes, a customer fails and goes out of business, and there was a big stream of income, things like that. So for me, I grew up telling myself there was no way I was going to be an entrepreneur. I was going to go to work for a big company and I was going to work my butt off because that's what I was best at, is hustling and working hard, being disciplined. And I'm going to make a bunch of money. I'll make a couple $100,000 and I'll be set. That was my belief.
Yep.
And when I was done with football, so the big thing for me going from football is I saw this world of possibility. Everything is literally accessible. Money is accessible. Access to anything you want, events, to opportunities, to women, like literally everything is like right there on the table, and it's showing up to the table for you. You're not even having to like go search it out. So you've got that. And then to walk away from it, because my story is unique. Like this is something I kept to myself, and until I started doing podcasts, never talked about it with anybody. Everybody just thought like, hey, it didn't work out. Well, it didn't work out for a reason, because when I got moved from tight end to fullback, I showed out playing lights out day one. Like the very first play, I come ripping around the corner and blow up Bob Sanders, Hall of Famer, strong safety, known for blowing dudes up. I light him up, and Norv Turner throws his clipboard. He's like, there you go, Rodgers. And like, that's what it was like from the very first play of being in the NFL. It was like, welcome to the league, And so I was playing good, but dude, to play that well at fullback, I had to lead with my head. And tell me I was doing it wrong. That's fine. But dude, for me to light dudes up, I had to hit with my biggest weapon, which was my head.
Yep.
And I started feeling it way too much. Like at tight end, you run into dudes, you get hit when you're catching passes, like you're having big collisions. But at fullback, that's completely different. And my head was feeling it way too much. And I just knew, like, all the alarms were going off in my head, like, dude, danger, danger,
I mean, dude, you're literally a paid torpedo. You're like, hey, you're going to sacrifice your entire well-being so we can hopefully gain 4 yards.
For real. And from the neck down, my body felt incredible. Like I had never felt better. All the nutrition, supplements, physical trainers, all that stuff, my body was like, felt indestructible. But from the head up, for the first time, it just felt way too much. And ESPN was talking about concussions. Junior Seau literally killed himself that year. Study my brain. So all these things were happening at once. And I just said, dude, I got to walk away. I remember having the conversations with Norv Turner and the GM, and it was like, I can't play the same as I have been because I'm just feeling it. So decided to walk away, and I walked away from all the money, all the fame, all the status, everything, and was left with literally nothing. I had to start over, and so I got into corporate, and it was like, this has to work. I have to make it. I have to do well. But I started in an entry-level position. I'm essentially fresh out of college still, from a experience standpoint. So I got a starting salary of $65,000 in the San Francisco Bay Area, which is like a negative salary.
Right.
To live there. And so after the first year, I bust my ass, RJ, and I'm like, dude, I'm going to get a pay raise. They're going to see how hard I worked. I mean, it was so easy to do the work, slapping a keyboard when I'm used to being ready to be in an 80,000 person stadium with people screaming and wanting you to fail and being battle tested and ready to run through a person, I was ready for anything. And now I'm just typing on a keyboard. It
Right.
was pretty, pretty damn easy. So I'm thinking, well, dude, they're going to give me a bump. I know people coming fresh out of college that are making six figures. I got to at least make $100,000. They gave me a salary increase of $2,000. I was now making 67. That was after waiting 14 months. And I was like, dude, fuck this.
Yeah.
This isn't going to work. It's not going to work anytime fast. What is the path to even get to 100K? Because that's like bare minimum where I feel like I'm making little something. And so I just went home and I was feeling kind of defeated, feeling kind of like a loser, dude. Because I just came from the ultimate of life, being in the NFL,
And you
to now,
chose to walk away from it.
right,
I mean, so you can't even like blame it on like, hey, I got injured
right.
or I got cut or something like that. It's like, no, I made the decision to walk away from that so I could go make 67,000 a year.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
And
rough.
so I felt like a loser, dude, honestly. And, what am I going to do about this? And I felt like my back was against the wall. And the realness of that situation was, I was, and I still am, I was very optimistic. I was young and, didn't have the, kids or any responsibilities, but I was living like an adult now. I'm living on my own in San Francisco. I've got bills and expenses every month, and money was tight at that salary. I was living paycheck to paycheck, and money dried up really fast. And I remember one month where my credit cards, I had like two credit cards that were like 5,000 each, and they were like close to being maxed out. So didn't have much money in my bank account. And I'm thinking to myself, dude, I got to go buy groceries. What are we going to do? And my wife had just gotten a Target credit card for $500. And we had to go use that Target credit card to go buy groceries because Target just started selling grocery items.
Right.
And I remember thinking to myself, dude, I got to buy groceries at Target with a Target credit card now. I got to do something. So did some soul searching really quickly and just thought, well, I like real estate. I remember growing up watching HGTV. That was the only thing that came to my mind. Literally, my mind was blank. There was like nothing in there working.
Right.
What else do I even like? So I typed into Google how to get started in real estate, and up popped up Sean Terry's Flip to Freedom podcast. And I was like, what's this all about? I can get started with little to no money. That sounds awesome because that's what I got right now.
Right.
And I pulled up his podcast and it was just audio, started listening to it. And hey, this is Sean Terry, Flip to Freedom. And I was like, dude, this dude's fired up. And then he started talking about the concept of real estate investing and getting a house and how this pest control guy was making several $100,000. I'm like, dude, if this pest control guy can make a couple $100,000, I can do it too. And so I just went all in, was insanely obsessed. I felt that feeling like, dude, this will get me back to that dream life that I saw was possible with the NFL, and took action. Started literally doing exactly what Sean was saying in his podcast. Didn't take any other, deviation, made up my own strategy. I just did what he said. And within 3 months, I got a deal under contract. And I was like, dude, here we go. We got something. And I couldn't find a buyer. So I got pretty smart. I got to give myself credit. Not always the smartest, but this was pretty damn smart. I'm thinking to myself, well, dude, Sean Terry, he knows how to sell these deals. He's telling me he's selling them all day long. I'm going to go to his website and type it in like I'm the seller. So I typed it in. His acquisition guy called me and I told him, hey, I got a deal under contract. Can you guys help me? Sure. Let me put you in contact with Sean. Sean called me from his cell phone while he's driving. I was like, dude, this is Sean. This is sick. And he's like, oh, yeah, man, we can get that thing sold. Just give me a couple days. And he got that thing sold in like 48 hours. And we made 12 grand together, split it in half, made 6 grand. And I just remember that feeling of like, holy crap, this is real. And this is what's going to get me back to that dream life.
I love it, man. First and foremost, Sean Terry has impacted so many people's lives in this
So many.
industry. It's a regular occurrence on this podcast where it's like, how'd you get your start? Well, I was listening to the Flip the Freedom podcast. I've never had the honor of meeting Sean. Strangely enough, I've been at multiple events that he's been at. But for whatever reason, I wasn't there when he was there, and vice versa. But he's given so many people the start that they needed, and that's super cool that you actually did the deal with him, and it wasn't just his team. You actually got to talk to him.
I know.
And yes, kudos to you for thinking outside the box.
I'm pretty proud of that moment. Yeah, I was like,
yeah,
I got to do something here. So new.
You know, I mean, you didn't know any better, and I think that's a takeaway from that moment, though. There is power when you are new to this industry, where there's things that you don't know yet. And it's just about taking that action, where instead of telling yourself don't do something, it's like, dude, I'm going to ask for forgiveness, not permission. Like, let's see what happens, because what's the worst thing that happens? It doesn't work out and you still got your $67,000 a year job. So you do that deal, you make $6,000. How long before you pull the plug on the corporate job?
For years and years. Yeah. Because for me, I like that stability. And to me, I tell people to this day, I'm not a big believer in burning the boats. It can work for some people, but for me, like, dude, if I burnt that boat, I was sinking. I was already paycheck to paycheck and living tight. I couldn't afford to do it. So for me, I had to hustle my way out of it, and I had to work around the 9-to-5 job. It was every lunch break. It was every on the commute to work and on the commute back from work. It was when I got back home. It was when I saw people walk out to get a smoke break. I was like, well, dude, if they're taking 10, 15 minutes, I'm going to take 10, 15 minutes, and I'm going to return this voicemail from that postcard I sent out, So that's what I was doing, man. And that's what started to build momentum. And looking back, I did it the long and hard way. If I would have had hindsight, I would have leaned into the distant mentor that I already had, Sean Terry. He had a coaching program. Right. I should have leaned in and taken the next step and spent the thousands of dollars and found a way to do that, because that would have accelerated my success even more, just by getting little tidbits of information and getting guidance and helping minimize the mistakes that I ended up making. Because I made.
You should have just said, "Hey, Sean, keep your $6,000.
Right?
Teach me."
Yeah.
Teach me, master.
Right. But I didn't even know that was a thing. Right. I didn't know that was a thing back then. It actually wasn't until like years in that the light bulb went off, like, oh, Sean is like teaching people. And oh, by the way, being on this side where I'm actually coaching people, I understand, like, he's dropping all this knowledge to help people. And it also is a funnel to help people at a deeper level when they join his coaching program and his mastermind. Like, it's a funnel that leads to that deeper level of relationship and helping people out. So for me, I just didn't even know that was an option at the time.
So when you were during those years where you were still corporate, was it strictly wholesaling?
So that's where it got interesting. Okay. First year, strictly wholesaling. I think I did 8 deals in the first year, made about $60,000. Felt, hey, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm reinvesting back into the business, marketing. All right, it's time to blow this thing up. And I even told my wife, I laugh to this day, the first year, I told her, oh, dude, this thing's going to blow up. You could probably stop working pretty soon. Little did I know what I was going to do next. On the second year, I am wholesaling in my local market in Central California. And I wholesale a couple deals to a local buyer that I had found from a for rent sign in front of a house. I called the for rent sign, like, I'm taking action, dude. I'm calling for rent. Hey, is the owner potentially interested in selling? I don't know. Let me put you in contact with him. He calls me. Hey, I'm not looking to sell that house, but I'd be interested in buying anything you got. Great. I start sending him deals. We get sold, making some money. And he's like, dude, you're really good at finding deals. Do you want to flip houses together? I'm like, well, yeah, that sounds great. It sounds like exactly what I want to do so I can make more money, but I don't have the resources yet. I don't have cash to buy these houses and stuff. He's like, dude, just bring the deals. I'll do the rest. I'll bring the money. I'll do the construction, manage the project. I'm like, let's do it, man. Let's go. So the next words out of his mouth are, well, things are slowing down a little bit here in the Central Valley. Do you want to go flip houses in Arizona? I know you did a couple deals out there, right? I'm telling them about the deals I did with Sean and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, I got some connections out there, and the market's pretty similar, but maybe it's a bigger metro, so there's more deals. Yeah, let's buy some houses. So right away, I'm young and hungry. We buy 6 deals within a month, 6 deals. And we just boom, 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 boom. And I'm looking to buy more. My partner's like, let's slow down. Let's see how these go first. And 4 out of the 6, we make just a little bit of money. 10 grand here, 12 grand there, 20 grand on one, 5 grand on another. And the other 2 didn't go so well. I made all the rookie mistakes. And my partner, who was experienced, seasoned, had already done a bunch of flips, he tells me to this day, we were literally just talking about it at our company retreat. He's like, hey, I was just like, anything I touched at the time was gold. Everything was easy. I'm just going to let this young gun kind of run the show. I'm going to kind of just sit back and not really do much, not really look too closely on things. And because I was kind of running the show and happy to bring value, the contractor we used was a criminal. He was a crook. He did an awful job on the remodels on those 2, and we had to redo everything. Literally everything had to be redone, so it was double the construction costs. He also took some of the money that needed to be applied to the funds. To make matters worse, the properties we bought too high. We were looking at comps on one side of the street, and it wasn't the same on the subject side of the street. Everything that could have gone wrong for a newbie flipper went wrong, and it ended up resulting in losing $100,000. And for me at that time, RJ, I did not have $100,000 to lose.
Right.
I didn't have it. I didn't even have it. Right. So now this new partnership that we started, we're staring each other in the face. And thankfully, we're both the same way. We're both like, hey, let's fix it. Let's figure it out. Let's go do some more deals, right? That was the way to fix it. Now, thankfully, he was in the financial position to shoulder that burden and literally carry the weight for me until I could make it back up. So I got the work, started finding more deals, flipping houses back where we should have in Central California, which is our backyard. And right at that time, one of my marketing pieces, a postcard or a letter, goes to a gentleman. He calls me, hey, I'm not interested in selling my house, but I got $1 million in the bank. What could you give me? And I'm doing the Sean Terry studying. I'm listening to some other people. I know that, hey, if you can give someone a 10% annualized return, that's going to get most people excited. So that's exactly what I told this guy. And he's like, cool. When can we meet? And mind you, I don't have any flips to show for. Like, what am I going to do? So I go back to my partner and I'm like, hey, this guy's got $1 million. Let's meet at one of your flips. So we meet at the flip and he says, hey, by the way, is it all right if I bring my friend? He's got more money than me. I was like, okay. Yeah. So these 2 older guys show up and my partner's walking him around the house, telling him what he did to the flip and how much he spent. And one of the guys who was the more seasoned investor of the 2 was like, yep, this guy knows what he's talking about. Just let us know when you need the money. And I was like, dude, that was crazy. I'm just getting started, and having resources, having capital is one of the barriers for a lot of people. So we get a property the next week. I call them, 10% annualized interest, the whole purchase price, boom. We buy a house. We go on to buy and buy and buy. And we did hundreds of flips with just these 2 guys, to where we would have 20 flips going at a time and have three $3.5 million out with just one of them. And that was a godsend. That relationship really set me up and helped me take off. It helped me climb out of the hole that I dug. But then the next part of the story comes. I'm on this upward trajectory, right? I'm creating my hero's journey. I'm becoming somebody again. I'm starting to feel like I've got this new identity. I'm feeling good. But I moved back to San Diego. Okay. And I'm seeing the real estate market in San Diego, and they've got sexy flips here. They got HGTV style houses, and they don't have those kind of houses in Central California. So I'm starting to build a network of people here and building a circle of people. And I'm really interested in flipping houses in San Diego. And I'm kind of dipping my toe in, wanting to do some flips here, wanting to make some money on my own outside of the partnership too, because the fact I knew like a lot of our money was tied up in these flips. It was a cash intensive business, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I always felt broke. And right before my oldest son was born, someone in that circle of people in San Diego was like, dude, here's a deal. I got it ready to go. And it was outside of my comfort zone. It was a new construction deal. And I'm thinking to myself, man, this is definitely not up my alley, but I'm willing to do anything to make some extra money right now. This deal analyzer tells me the numbers are good. And this guy, he's in the circle. He's doing deals with other people. He's got to be, trustworthy. Well, turns out I buy this piece of dirt. And the house of cards that this guy had built literally falls right at that moment. And he was just like a professional criminal. And he was borrowing money from all these people to buy these projects. And he was getting firsts and seconds and thirds and fourth loans on properties and over leveraging everything and buying properties too high, and had an appraiser that was in on it with him that was giving appraisals that were too high for the hard money lender. It was one thing after another. And this piece of dirt that I bought, what gave me comfort was there was a lot right next to it. He was going to do the project too. And he said, hey, the plans and permits are ready to go. We can break ground the day that you buy this. And to make the story short, the house of cards fell. I realized I had bought a piece of junk that had so many issues. There was no plans and permits approved. The architect wasn't paid. The civil engineers weren't paid. He had taken money from the hard money loan with fake receipts. It was just like an absolute disaster that left me losing at the end of the day, having to work through this nightmare for a year and a half. I ended up not moving one piece of that dirt, just working with all these people at the city and civil engineers, having to figure stuff out. I ended up losing $187,000. And RJ, at the time, it was not a good time to lose $187,000. It was literally like all the money I had that was tied up in my flips.
Right.
And so now I'm stuck with another time where I'm like, dude, again? Like, come on, man. Like, this sucks. And for a moment, I had to like stop myself from feeling like a victim, because how could you not? You just got wrecked twice, and I had to fight out of the first one. Now I'm stuck with having to fight out of the second one. And it was just a nasty gut punch, dude, of like, dude, when am I going to have my break? And I had to go get more deals. That was the solution.
Man, that's I will say this, because I shared with you fairly similar story. I didn't go into very much details, but very similar situations where deals that were purchased got robbed by contractors. Had a contractor actually do a draw with the hard money lender and forged my signature and took out like $25,000 from the rehab budget and hadn't done any of the work. And essentially the hard money lender was like, sorry, that you hired a bad contractor, just similar stories there. I think there's something to be said about, hey man, If you're going to be flipping houses and you're going to be doing these types of deals and taking them down, and you're not just wholesaling, you need to make sure that there's a level of supervision on these deals and the due diligence that is needed, not only on the deal, but also on the people that you're going to be doing the deal with. Because it's not like you weren't going out and doing the rehab yourself. You're hiring contractors. You were essentially taking this guy for his word on the appraisal that he gave you and the plans and the permits and the civil engineers and all these things. That could have literally ruined your career. I mean,
For real, honestly. And at the time, it derailed me, dude. I mean, it wrecked me. And I remember going to bed with I could just feel my heart beating out of my chest. It was beating that hard because I just not so much because of the loss and knowing how hard the journey was going to be, more so just that sick gut feeling of getting scammed.
yeah.
I mean, literally somebody intentionally like screwed me over and had zero remorse about it. So that was the part that hurt the most.
One last thing before you move on, because I think this is a similarity that you and I have in our stories that everyone needs to understand. What got me out of my poor decisions, and I'll take the ownership on them, they were my poor decisions, and I'll say you probably think the same thing about the deal
I'm
you
gonna
did in
touch on that.
Arizona, the deal you did in San Diego. You know, I mean, they were the decisions that we made, right? What allowed us to survive those mistakes were the relationships that we had with our private money lenders.
Yep.
The
100%.
the fact that they didn't sit there and say, I'm sorry, Dean, but you owe me $100,000. Like, I mean, I don't know what to tell you, but you got to go give me the $100,000 right now. He allowed you to pay that, and the trust that he had in you, and kudos to you for being that type of person that went out and did that. Very similar situation with my situation with the deals that we bought that didn't go well, and at the end of it, it's like, man, we're $35,000 short. I'm gonna have to go do another deal and make $35,000 to pay you back. And the fact that my lenders were like, okay, I'm okay with that. And it's not that you just have to go do one deal. It's essentially the fact that you have to work 10 times harder to make sure that you're taking care of yourself and earning enough revenue to take care of your business and your family and all of your overhead and everything else, plus earning that money to pay back those lenders. It makes things, and it slows you down so much. I mean, I'm sure you look back at it and go, dude, I lost years. I have a $10 million portfolio right now, but I could have a $25 million portfolio right now if I hadn't had to do that. So you had this scenario in San Diego. You're $187,000 in the hole now. Again, what did you do to overcome that? Because obviously you're now in the San Diego market. Were you gun shy there, or did you just dive in and say, no, I'm going to make this work here in San Diego?
Yeah, no, I want to touch on what you said, because honestly, you said some things that are nuggets that are so important as part of my story, and it sounds like part of your story. Is first and foremost is taking ownership.
Yeah.
Okay. If you're someone that's going to be pointing fingers and stuff like that, that's not going to help you keep trust and keep your reputation with people. Look, at the end of the day, having extreme ownership is the most important thing, because like you said, I made the decision to do those deals. No one had a gun to my head and said, you got to do this deal or you're done. Like, I made that decision. So I got to be responsible, knowing that going forward, I've got to be better with my decision-making process. And ultimately, what would have helped me avoid those deals was not something that needed to have like, oh, I needed these skills to overcome that. All I needed to do was do the proper due diligence, make the extra phone call. And to give you real examples, with that deal in San Diego where I lost 187, how many people were involved in that deal? It was a new construction deal. Plans and permits were approved. Okay, let me make a phone call. The sick part about this story, RJ, is the guy who scammed me even would say over and over, not once, not twice, like dozen different times. Oh yeah, you know you got to trust but verify. He said it himself, and he's a sick mofo. Like, what the
Golly.
heck? But for me, I was blinded by I needed to do the deal to make that money, and I was being careless with the due diligence part, which make the extra phone call. The architect, that let me talk to the architect. Hey, these plans, we got them approved. Wait a second. You haven't been paid yet? That doesn't sound right. What's
Right.
going on here? Let me make another phone call. Civil engineer. Hey, you've been working with the city. I heard these plans are approved and we're ready to break ground. Wait, we're nowhere close? What are you talking about? Well, let me call up a hard money lender. You said you're good to fund the deal? Wait a second. He's already drawn money and you don't think this deal is going to work out and he's screwed? Oh my gosh. I'm not doing this deal. I
Right.
I even had the hard money lender's phone number in my phone, their cell phone number. I could have texted them. Like
Yep.
that's where you got to take ownership. It was my fault. Okay. Now, granted, there was a bad guy who tried to screw me over, right?
Right.
But I should have avoided it. And it's making the extra phone call for anybody that's getting started. When you're getting into flips, like if you want to get out of wholesaling and get into flips or rentals, there's additional responsibility. When you buy that house, look, the safety net's gone. You own
Yep.
it. You got to deal with the problems that come with it. So you either bought it at the right price or you didn't. And making those extra phone calls is what's really important.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. So, how did you dig yourself out of this situation? What did you do next?
So for me, we're right at that point where, all right, we got all these flips going. And I notice that, hey, I'm feeling cash poor. Not to mention the fact I just lost all this money, right? And again, now those flips that are closing and I'm making that money, I'm taking those and I'm paying back my loss. I'm paying back my loss. And now, like you said, I'm working 10 times harder just to get back to even. And now that I'm even, I realize, dude, we're really good at finding deals, but when we're doing 20 flips at a time and ripping through these deals, we go over time, over budget, and just doesn't feel like we're making enough, but we're finding really good deals. So let's get focused on what we're good at. Let's start wholesaling. That'll be our main business. We'll wholesale as many deals as we can, and the best deals we'll start to keep as flips and we'll start to keep as rentals. I didn't own a rental at all by this time. And so within a period of 3 years, I buy about $10 million worth of rental properties and now have more money than I ever had in the bank. And the flips that we're doing are big, juicy rips. You
Yep.
know, we're not making 15 grand on a flip, 20 grand on a flip because we're trying to do volume, or 5 grand on a flip and you spend 5 months to do it because you're
Right.
just trying to crank out volume. Now we're making 40, 50, 60, 80, 100, 150. And now we're moving the needle. Now we got it figured out. We know what we're good at and we're starting to build and we're starting to add team members because now we can afford payroll and we can afford better marketing. And that's where we're at now, right? Over the past handful of years is optimizing our systems, getting it dialed in, knowing what we're good at. And what also was the secret sauce during that time is I realized that whole time, RJ, while I was battling all these things and overcoming these losses and working on this new career, I had my head down. I was working in the trenches and I was not networking with people. And I feel like networking has become more obvious to people in the past couple years that, like, dude, if you want to grow, if you want to be successful, networking is the hack. I don't know if that was talked about as much back then. I sure as heck missed out on it because I was
Well,
just like blinders on, working on my own thing.
I have to say, I mean, it was probably a couple of years ago. I saw you on, actually, the first thing I saw you on was Speed to Lead's closer show. They Speed to Lead had you come on, and it was like, okay, former NFL player, real estate investor, and then it was like, it's like didn't know who Dean Rogers was before that, but then all of a sudden I started seeing you at everything.
Yeah.
And it was like, you're at Family Mastermind. I see you at like with Carlos Reyes. I see you with Pace and Jamil. And I'm like, who is this guy? Where are you? And you're right. I mean, the networking gets you out there. And then the next thing you know, when you start doing that, there's a residual effect to it. Because someone like me from afar starts seeing you with other people that I know. And then it's like, well, that's great. I mean, former NFL player turned real estate millionaire. Okay, cool. Where are you buying deals? Because I'm a nationwide wholesaler. And so then it's like, if I go get a deal in San Diego, who am I going to call? Because in fact, we've never done a deal in San Diego. Why? It's a highly competitive market. We don't do a lot. We don't do a lot of deals in California in general.
And to answer your question from earlier, when I had that loss, I decided like, dude, what am I doing here in San Diego? Like my bread and butter that I've been building is in Central California. I'm just going to stay focused there. So I too, like, I don't do deals in San Diego, even though I love to live here.
But see, that's the one of the many powers of networking. And I think one of the underrated aspects of networking is that it's not always just the person that you're networking with at that moment. It's the fact that you're talking about networking and who that reaches.
Yep.
And in the case in point, here we are today. I mean, I reached out to you like 4 days ago and said, "Hey, man, what would it take for the two-time Closers Olympics champion to get on the Deal Champs podcast?" And you're like, "You want to do it tomorrow?" I'm like, "Yeah." we recorded an hour and a half long podcast, and then I'm like, at the end of it, I'm like, "Hey, got to get you guys on my podcast." And then we're gonna go hang out next month at Family Mastermind. And then the residual effect, the ripple effect of networking and putting yourself out there, you never know what's going to happen with that, and it's extremely powerful and makes a difference. I will say, I want to touch on something because we have a lot of people talk about flips and wholesaling, but while you were doing this, I don't want to undermine the fact that you bought $10 million worth of rentals. And you did, that wasn't really a part of the path or the journey. So at what point in time did you say, "Hey, I'm going to do I'm assuming it was the Burr method"? When did that come in? And like, was there someone that taught it to you, or did you just say, "Hey, seems pretty simple. You buy, you rehab, you refinance, and you repeat"? Is that kind of how that kind of came about?
Yeah, I had no idea about the Burr method. I don't think people were really talking about it yet. Certainly not like they are now. And the light bulb went off for me when I was, again, right at that pivot where I realized we're doing too many flips. We're not making the kind of money we should because we're focused on doing too many flips. Let's get focused on making good deals happen, starting with us being good at finding deals, wholesaling those, and only doing the best ones. And at that time, I also realized, dude, I've been doing all this work. What do I got to show for it?
Right.
The losses really didn't help because that drained a lot of the money that I'd made during that time and set me back. You made a really huge point. When you have those losses, not only does it take money out of your pocket, but dude, the compounding effect of opportunity cost is massive.
Yep.
Look, I've been doing this for 10 years now. And I'll say the money I got in my bank account, the portfolio that I have, I'm super proud of it. But I could have had this same level of success in 5 years if I had actually gotten a mentor coach to guide me and avoid those mistakes and compound on success. And what would I be sitting at right now in 10 years? Dude, it could be 20, 30, 40, $50 million for real. Like, I'm not even making that up. So that part.
Say something real quick though. You talk about getting a mentor that could have saved you from those mistakes. I think the majority of people that choose to not hire a mentor to avoid those mistakes is because they don't want their mentor to tell them to not do something that they want to do.
Yeah. That's definitely part of it.
There was a dean that was flipping 20 houses at a time that did not want to hire Sean Terry to say, hey, Dean, you probably shouldn't do that. You probably shouldn't buy this piece of dirt in San Diego, because entrepreneurs naturally have an ego. And we want to be the guy or the gal that goes out and does something that somebody else isn't doing. And so there is a certain level of what I've seen is like stubbornness, where it's like, no. I got this. Don't you see what I'm doing? I don't need you to tell me what to do. I think there's a level of that. What do you think about that?
I think there's that part, and it's also the scarcity mindset. That's too much. It's too expensive.
Yeah.
I had this conversation with someone looking to come on as a student of mine just yesterday, and his argument was like, "Well, I'm looking to do this, but it's just a little bit more than I thought it would be." And I said to him, "Dude, if you do just one deal, it'll more than pay for the cost, but really it's an investment in yourself and your personal development. You'll get your return on your investment then, and then on top of that, the compounding effect of that guidance to accelerate your success." And dude, some of these masterminds and coaching programs that I've now joined over the past couple of years and paid tens of thousands of dollars, honestly, sometimes just being in the room, you might hear a lot of what you already know, but sometimes it's one thing, literally one thing that you implement and changes so much in your business. So what's the price of that? And so I think that's the other part of it, is the scarcity mindset of, I can't afford that. It's too expensive. But if I could go back in a time machine and spend whatever amount of money Sean Terry needed me to spend, I would have avoided losing hundreds of thousands of dollars, literally about $400,000 worth of money that I lost within that period of time. I could have avoided and had so much more success. So which would you rather have? Would you rather make the mistakes on yourself and take the long path and do it on your own? Or would you rather take the shortcut?
So this past episode, where we're doing it the week of where it got released, was the 6-year anniversary of the titanium vault. And I went back and I edited it myself. Okay. I did not hire someone to do this. I went back and I hand chose 13 different interviews and picked my favorite moments from those interviews. And it was funny because my favorite moments were from my very early on interviews. Like the interviews that, dude, I wasn't even doing video at this point, okay? The YouTube video is a static image of my logo in the middle and their picture in the corner. And I had a script that I went by early on in the podcast. And my last question was always the question I'm about to ask you. And I included the answer that Max Maxwell gave and Cody Sanchez gave. And it's crazy because it was from 5 years ago. And the question is, where do you want to be 5 years from now? And it was crazy to hear. So I'm going to bring it back a couple of times now. So, Dean, I want to ask you. Yep. So in 2028, when I'm celebrating 11 years of the Titanium Vault, I could share this moment. Where do you want to be in 5 years from now?
So this is a great question to end with, because I wanted to make sure I touched on one thing that you brought up about how you've been seeing me around and how I was talking about how I had my head down. The biggest opportunity that you have in this business, in any business really, but real estate especially, because of the way that the real estate entrepreneurs are geared, is building your community and networking with intention. And for me, it all started with a vision. So 3 years ago, I had this vision that, you know what, I had my head down during this period of time because I felt like I needed to make it in something else which ended up being real estate, to be someone important again, to be someone of value, to be special like I once was in the NFL. I had this huge gap in my identity that I felt I need to recreate. So me actually like spending time to think about these feelings, that's what I was doing. That's why my head was down. I had to be great again before I could go out and tell people who I am and what I've been doing. But I missed out on the opportunity to share my journey that whole time, to document the journey of the come up, right? I was at the top, then I was at the bottom. Let me show you on my rise. But I kind of waited till I was back on the top to come out and be brave again, right? And to share my story. So I had this vision, which was I'm going to start a meetup. And my meetup is going to be in my local market, Central California, to focus on adding value. I want to give as much value as I can. People already know that we're doing deals, but they don't really know me, right? There's not a personal brand yet. So I start the meetup, 100 people at the first one. And I'm like, dude, this is awesome. This is exactly what I was hoping for. This is February of 2020. March, we have our next meetup scheduled. The whole world shuts down.
Right.
And I'm like, mother effer, like, what am I going to do now? And I had never really used social media for much more than like posting pictures of me at the beach with my kids or just random stuff, right? So I'm like, well, this is the only way I can talk to people. So let me start doing some selfie videos. So I just start sharing like, hey guys, we're still doing deals. Hey guys, we can help you with your deals. Hey guys, look at these deals we did with other people. And it literally created this whole effect of building a community just online of doing deals with other people. And now we're making more money. Now we're impacting other people. We're helping people that are both new and doing their first deal and turning that like deal they maybe would have made a couple $1,000 into a $40,000 deal, into a $50,000 deal. Some new people, we turn deals into 6-figure deals that we then split 50-50 with them. And we did all the work. That's the stuff that, like, as I'm saying it right now, I'm getting fired up, like, dude, this is what it's about. This is so much more fun than doing it just by yourself in your own world. So that then developed into, okay, local market, meetup, doing deals with other people. I got this down. What about the RJ Bates? What about the Carlos Reyes's? What about the Ryan Pinedas? What about the Cody Spurbers? What about the Pace Morbies, Jamil Damjis? What about the Henry Washingtons? What about all these other people I see online and are impacting so many more people? What are they doing differently? Well, first of all, they're going to events. They're part of masterminds. I need to go to events and be a part of masterminds. So 2022, the light bulb finally went off. February, I went to Scale and Escape, Kent Clothier. And I had just come from Stratton Brown's event in January where he invited me to speak. The very first event I've ever spoken at, Stratton Brown's. And I was like, dude, I met some freaking killer people that were also speakers. And when you're a speaker and on stage, you now have a different authority. You are now building a brand. And that set me off on a whole new trajectory. Now I got introduced because a guy that was at Stratton Brown's event introduced me to Kent Clothier. Kent Clothier says he wants a phone call with me. He wants to talk to a former NFL player. Well, guess what he does? He brings me to the VIP event at his Scale and Escape. He introduces me to Hall of Famer Marshall Faulk. He introduces me to, Carlos Reyes. He introduces me to Ryan Pineda. And now I'm meeting these people. And I hit it off with Carlos Reyes. We're talking for 45 minutes about our wives. We didn't talk at all about real estate. Now I'm like, dude, this is a real dude right here. Like, these are people I look up to. These are people that have inspired me over the years. And I can see that there's value both ways. So then I actually have Carlos Reyes on my podcast in his studio, of all things. And then I go to Justin Colby's event. And Carlos Reyes has me stand up and he shouts me out in front of all the people. And Justin Colby is, talking to me and introducing me to people. And it was literally this snowball effect in 2022 that was going from event to meeting these people I looked up to. And now I'm in their circle. Now I'm speaking at events. Now I have a podcast. and having these people on and highlighting them and building a community around that. And all these things have developed to the point where now I've been on Steve Trang's Real Estate Disruptors podcast. I was on Bigger Pockets, episode 785. Like all these things have snowballed because it started with that vision and realizing what the other people were doing and what I needed to do as well. And, we're sitting here in the middle of 2023 right now. This next month, for the first time ever, every single week, I'm traveling somewhere to go speak on stage. And that's never been a thing before. So where do I see myself in 5 years? RJ, I think my passion has continued to increase to focus around impact. So when I started my coaching program last year and I saw that what I was doing to help these people turned into an example, 21-year-old living at home with his parents, doing 17 deals and making $250,000. And, other people doing these deals, a stay-at-home mom or a single mom doing deals and transforming her life, and story after story of people doing these deals because I was helping them just like my the people I looked up to were. That's what I'm driven by now, is how much impact can I make? And I know that's going to be going to events. And as the coaching program grows, I see it becoming a big community, and I see it being a lot of people impacted and helped, because I know real estate's changed my life and got me back to the dream life that I had hoped for. And I want to make that accessible and available to as many people as possible.
The reason why I know you're going to be able to achieve that is because you're okay with talking about failure.
I think that's such an important part of it, because most people, they just talk about all the good stuff.
Yeah.
And that's why I make sure to talk about the struggles and the challenges, because I know they could have been avoided. And I know that as long as you don't give up, you can make it. And that's an important ingredient that most people don't realize.
I mean, the bottom line is if I'm sitting here and I'm listening to this podcast today and I want to be just like Dean Rogers, I am okay with hiring you, because I know you're not just going to fool me a bunch of bullshit and say, yeah, I mean, if you do this, it automatically works. Because you're literally sitting here saying, like, no, it didn't just automatically work for me. I made a lot of mistakes along the way, and I'm going to try to help you avoid those mistakes. And I think sometimes it's just as important that you're getting the things not to do as you're getting the things to do from a mentor when you're hiring somebody. Dean, how can people find out more about your coaching program, and where's the best place for them to follow you?
Yeah, you guys can always connect with me at deanrogers.com. You got all the stuff about my social media stuff, all the stuff about the coaching program. So would love to connect with you guys there. You can check that out. You can always check me out on Instagram at Dean Rogers Real Estate. And I always give this call to action whenever I'm on a podcast, is honestly, reach out to me. Send me a DM. Let me know you heard this on RJ's podcast, the Titanium Vault. Let me know what you're doing, what I can help you with. Because if you listen to this point, this far, then there was some sort of value you got, right? If you listen this far, the next step you need to take is connection. You need to reach out. So send me a DM. I actually respond to my DMs, and I love connecting with people. So let's connect.
He responds very quickly to his DMs as well. As I said earlier in the podcast, that's why we're sitting here today. Dean, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story, man. I really appreciate the fact that your story was genuine and it was raw and it was real, and you shared both wins and losses. That means a lot to me, because a lot of times on these, people don't want to talk about that. I think people learn just as much about that as they do as the victories and the wins. Congrats on everything, man. And like I said, 2028, man, I'm going to probably share this. Can't wait to see where you are then.
Let's go.